Good evening. I hereby call the Palm Springs Regular City Council meeting of February 11th, 2021 to order. For those who'd like to join me, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call.
Councilmember Garner.
Here.
Councilmember Coors.
Here.
Councilmember Woods.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Middleton.
Here.
And Mayor Holstedge.
Here.
All council members are present.
Thank you. We have a few presentations tonight, and the first is a COVID-19 case update from our Emergency Management Coordinator, Danny DeSelm.
All right, good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. Just a quick update. I'm not going to talk much about the vaccinations because I know that the mayor wants to talk about that. As you can see on the slide, our current case rate for the county is at 45 cases per day per 100,000 residents. That's the lowest that it's been in about 8 weeks. We just came out of triple digits last week, and we were over 110 2 weeks ago. So it's pretty good improvement. Also, the county actually has ICU capacity again. We're fluctuating between 10 and 20% ICU capacity daily. The county only has 240 ICU beds, so it's actually very easy for that number to fluctuate. But right now, as of today, we had 23 bed spaces available in the ICU. One update on the purple tier. Most people know that the Supreme Court ruled that churches can reopen. Every church is going to have their own internal restrictions. The modification that the state has is 25% capacity, but your individual church might have tighter restrictions, but you can go back to inside worship. For the actual case numbers, usually I've been doing about a 6 or an 8 week spread. I went back a little bit further so we could see the progress. Our numbers right now are reflecting what they were in early November. You can see that we have the spike post-Thanksgiving and then the really big spike post-Christmas and New Year's. Last week there was 6,800 cases. Up to this point, since Monday, we've only had 2,000, so we're actually on track to have another improved week, putting us at early November case rates. Hopefully there's nothing from the Super Bowl that puts us back up. I doubt it, given our demographic. And then the only thing that I want to mention on vaccinations and testing before turning it over to the mayor for her to talk about the convention center is you have to have an appointment for the vaccine. If you don't make an appointment and show up, they're just going to turn you around, which takes time and patience from everybody. But that's all I've got.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? I don't see any. Thank you so much. The next presentation is a presentation about our COVID-19 wastewater treatment update with Assistant City Manager Marcus Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I actually did update this presentation. We received the latest test results from this last Monday, which continue the downward trend that we've been looking for. This is the graph you've been seeing. This goes to before Thanksgiving, where we had 150,000 virus per liter, which spiked to 2.6 million during the holidays. And I'm happy to report that on Monday, it was back down to 208,000, which is before Thanksgiving levels. This is mirroring exactly the information that you just heard. Here's our lab report. indicating that the cases represented by the COVID in our wastewater range from 183 to 810 cases, and they're estimating 348 cases. This is now on track with what the county's actually showing, which is 348 active cases currently. So this is all exactly what we wanted to see occurring as a result of the regional order, in that we're seeing a much reduced rate of COVID cases in our wastewater and in our population. Mayor?
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council members? Thank you to our residents for all your sacrifices, both to our residents, our workers, our businesses. I know we've all made personal sacrifices to get through this, and you can see that those sacrifices worked, that we really have turned down the trend. We've bent the curve of that graph in a lot of different ways. So thank you to everyone for all that you've done and you will continue to do in the next few months as we make sure everyone gets vaccinated in the city of Palm Springs. The next presentation is me. So I have an update about our new Palm Springs Vaccination Center and the media preview that we did today. So thank you to Riverside University Health System and Public Health, and especially a big thank you to our supervisor, Manuel Perez, who was instrumental in making sure that we had a site here in Palm Springs and in the Western Coachella Valley. Over the last few weeks, we've heard from our residents that you could not easily access the site in Indio with the county or other sites that were further away. So we are lucky and grateful to have a site here in Palm Springs with the county and at our convention center. So the update is that the hours of operation will be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Appointments are necessary, so you need to make an appointment online. Appointments will be offered to people in Phase 1A and Phase 1B, Tier 1. So that's residents who are 65 and older and a lot of essential workers, and you can find that graph online. Registration is required. A limited amount of vaccinations were available tomorrow on Friday, and then full operations will begin on Monday. Those appointments should be online pretty shortly. The capacity is up to 500 vaccinations per day, and we have a commitment from them to do that for the next couple of months. And it also, because our convention center is so large, there's the possibility of expansion based on vaccine availability. So this is a really exciting opportunity for our residents, really a historic moment in our fight for fighting this pandemic in our city and saving lives of our neighbors and friends. So here you can see all of us, and thank you to Councilmember Woods and Mayor Pro Tem Middleton for being there, as well as our convention center staff and city staff. So you can see us showing off the large space. It looked really great to kind of walk in. It's all socially distanced. You have a place for registration and for the vaccinations, and then a place to wait for 15 minutes. So really grateful for Curative, the Riverside Public Health, our supervisor, Manuel Perez, and city staff for making this happen as we continue to do all that we can to do our part to keep our residents safe. So thank you. Any questions or comments about our new vaccination site in Palm Springs? Great. So the next presentation is an update from Councilmember Coors about the Desert Community Energy contract signing.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Holstedge. And to add to the thanks on the Convention Center, I want to thank you for your leadership and working with the supervisor and staff to make this happen. It's truly appreciated. So on Tuesday, Mayor Holstedge, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and I, as well as others, went out to what will be a new windmill farm just south of the Amtrak station on a cloudy and windy day by the windmills. And this was a major step forward for Desert Community Energy and Palm Springs in our joint efforts to address climate change and save ratepayers money. as Desert Community Energy signed 3 15-year power purchase agreements with Terrigen for 100% renewable and carbon-free power produced right here in Palm Springs. I know a lot of folks, especially people who come visit, think that all the power from the windmills comes to us, but it goes to whoever signs contracts all around the country. But these contracts will result in 100% of the power from these 3 new wind farms for 15 years going to our customers. And as a result of that, and that's one of the benefits that DCE as a nonprofit with local control has, we are creating 180 new construction jobs right here in Palm Springs and 5 to 6 permanent green energy jobs to maintain these windmills. So it was a really nice ceremony with Terrigen, and it's really exciting that we can now share that the energy coming from those windmills is coming to, the customers, the businesses, and residents right here in Palm Springs. And over time, we'll save considerable money for them as well. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or comments by council members? Thank you to Councilmember Kors for really spearheading this effort and being a leader on this for the entire Coachella Valley. We're grateful for your efforts and looking forward to saving all that money for our ratepayers as well as having a better environment. And hopefully other cities will join our efforts as well. The next item is acceptance of the agenda. The City Council will discuss the order of the agenda, may amend the order, add urgency items, note abstentions or no votes on consent calendar items, or request consent calendar items be removed for separate discussion. So I'd like to entertain a motion for the acceptance of the agenda. Are there any items that staff or a council member would like removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and vote?
I don't actually want to remove it. I just want to provide a clarification for the 1A for our minutes. On page 30, it's our December 10th meeting. It says that I wanted basketball hoops taken down, but I actually wanted the basketball hoops put back up at all of our parks. So that's pretty important for me if it can be fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kors.
I'd like to pull 1B as in boy.
1B as in boy. I guess we'll allow it for...
Well, baby boy in your honor.
Sounds good. I have one of those. It's Palm Springs related. Other items that council members would like to pull? Seeing none, are there any that staff would like to pull?
No, Mayor.
Mayor Holstedge, did you want to pull the item regarding the bid demolition at 1875 North Palm?
Yes, thank you. Can you explain your reason for that?
You'd like me to explain why? Sure. So we received communication from the bankruptcy trustee. This relates to the Tova Hotel project, I believe it's called. And that project is currently in bankruptcy proceedings. We had hoped to go out to bid and then be able to eventually demolish the structure. The bankruptcy court has prohibited us from doing that at this point. They're of the opinion that the property is more valuable with the structure on it. And so they have directed us to not proceed with the demolition at this time.
Thank you. Any other items that we would like to pull? Seeing none, could I have a motion to accept the agenda with item 1B as in boy and 1 pulled for separate discussion and 1F pulled off the agenda to come to a future agenda?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, seconded by, I heard, Councilmember Garner.
Mayor Pro Tem Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Yes.
Councilmember Kors.
Yes.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Mayor Holstedge.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have the report of the closed session. If the city attorney can please give that report.
Absolutely. So the council did go into closed session on the items that were listed on the agenda. We discussed, The two items listed under existing litigation, and the Dream Hotel item, labor negotiations, and then 7 items related to exposure and initiation of litigation, and there's no reportable action.
Thank you. And thank you to Elizabeth Hull for filling in for Jeff Ballinger, who is out of the office today. We appreciate you being here, but you're from the same firm, BBK. I know you work closely with him.
I do. Thank you.
The next item is public testimony. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the City Council on non-public hearing agenda items only. So 2 minutes will be assigned to each speaker. You're asked to please begin your time by telling us what agenda item or items you're speaking about. Please note that the testimony for public hearings will be taken at the time of the public hearing item, and that general public comment for subjects not on the agenda will be taken later in the evening. We try for around 9 to 9:30 p.m. to do those for people who are waiting to do that at home. So tonight, the City Clerk will be contacting speakers by telephone. City Clerk, if you could please begin.
Brian Benite, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. I'm speaking today in protest of the decision put forth by the council to make the modifications to the Chuckwalla Gate for pedestrian and bicycle access. We do not support any temporary or permanent modifications of the cul-de-sac gates and request a no vote on this item. As a homeowner in the area that would be directly impacted by the opening of the gates, I can assure the council that none of my neighbors, including those on Chuckwalla, have any interest whatsoever in the city pursuing this course of action. These gates and the resulting cul-de-sacs they create are what drew many of the residents to these neighborhoods, as they provide a respite from unwanted traffic and a sense of community and security for the residents that live on them. These cul-de-sacs and the gates have existed for 31 years without any problems or complaints from the residents or the city. There's literally nothing for the city to gain from this course of action and so much to be lost. Simply put, the residents of the affected streets enjoy the peace and calm of living on cul-de-sacs simply because pedestrian and bicycle access is limited. And all of that could be taken away. This entire enterprise, I believe, is to be ill-conceived and has been poorly handled and needs to be stopped. I'm requesting a no vote by the council and to have this topic removed from the consult calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. David Dunn, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Council. My name is David Dunn, and I've been a resident of the El Mirador community for over 10 years. I'll begin by stating that I join the vast majority of residents of El Mirador in strongly opposing any changes to the architecture or integrity of the cul-de-sacs at the end of our streets. Several months ago, the Council began this action by initially suggesting that the cul-de-sacs were a symbol of the city's history of racism, then later made an argument about ease of access to different services within our community. I fully acknowledge that Palm Springs has a history of racial injustice that needs address, no question. But as has already been presented to this council, these specific cul-de-sacs were constructed over 30 years ago as a direct response to the unresolved vandalism, vagrancy, and crime that was occurring in the neighborhood. They were paid for by an assessment of the homeowners and have been in place for over 30 years with no problem or issue. Furthermore, their presence in no way impedes anyone's access to any commercial, healthcare, leisure, or otherwise. You take a quick look at a map of our area. Because Chia bisects our community, it doesn't really matter where you start. You're obliged to go out to either Miralesta or Caballeros to access anything other than other residential homes. I would suggest, therefore, that there is no concrete rationale at all for spending municipal tax dollars to make any changes. I would like to finish my brief comments, just describing to you exactly how I feel right now as a homeowner dealing with this issue. It has sort of seemed to me that the Palm Springs City Council has more or less swooped down into our community out of nowhere, and pardon my hyperbole, seemingly on this desperate mission to change the integrity of our streets and our neighborhood with little or no input from us. And to say the least, I have found this a little unsettling, and I would be most interested in understanding better from where this motivation comes. I thank you so much for your attention and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect.
Okay.
Rico Barbosa, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. I'm a resident of North Vaquero Road in Palm Springs, an immigrant from the Philippines, born and raised by low-income parents who died when I was 13 years old. I'm a registered nurse. Council members, I'm talking to you to state my strong objection to any action toward modifications of the gates that created successful cul-de-sacs out of the North Vaquero, Rodeo, Fiesta, and Ocontia roads. After a lengthy Palm Springs search, we purchased our home in 2018 on a cul-de-sac because of the peace and quiet it offers as compared with other more urban areas. My partner for 18 years has limited mobility due to chronic cervical and lumbar medical issues, and Vaquero's limited foot and vehicular traffic is essential to his physical safety and personal security. Opening up North Vaquero to bicycle and pedestrian traffic with no sidewalks, not to mention the implied future plans stated by Councilmember Coors of removing the gates completely, would defeat the purpose for which we move here. In closing, I will make a simple summary point. We elected you to serve us, to guide us, to achieve progress and prosperity, and not to divide us after the past 4 years of national division. Yet our neighborhood has received inadequate advance notice of less than 5 days before today's action, and some residents were not notified at all. As you can see from my story, we are a diverse neighborhood, and any discussion of this proposal should have been conducted with the residents involved. This has not been done. Instead, divisive rhetoric of racism and discrimination was used by council members. Therefore, my partner and I do not support any temporary or permanent modifications to pedestrian or vehicular access to our cul-de-sacs without prior democratic consultation, and request a no vote on this consent calendar item. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Yuka Hung, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members, I'm opposed to any opening of the cul-de-sac gates for pedestrian access and request no vote be taken at this time. I am a person of color and a son of immigrants. I am proud to achieve my American dream, which includes living in the peaceful neighborhood of El Mirador. In 2018, I purchased my home on North Rodeo Road specifically because it is on a cul-de-sac with pedestrian and vehicular traffic limited to residents on the block. The sense of safety and serenity is very important to me. It is why we love Palm Springs. The city staff report has no evidence of a neighborhood request or support of this initiative. However, there is vague reference to the gates being a form of discrimination against lower-income residents. In the original 1990 neighborhood documentation for the cul-de-sac gates, it is very apparent that the streets were reconfigured for safety because the neighborhood was riddled with break-ins, petty theft, and quality-of-life crime. 40 property owners were assessed almost $5,000 each to legally create the cul-de-sacs in full collaboration and agreement with the city. City engineers and planners ensured the cul-de-sacs were constructed to be in full compliance with state and local codes existing at the time. After 30 years, our quiet streets have had a positive impact on the entire neighborhood. As a person of color who has been subjected to various levels of discrimination my entire life, I do not find these structures on our cul-de-sacs offensive or a symbol of racism. Rather, they provide significant peace of mind that activity is calm on our street. Our city is literally filled with gated communities for safety and traffic reasons. Are you proposing they all be removed elsewhere? Since moving in, I've had random intruders on my property and mail and package thefts. Opening the cul-de-sac cul-de-sac gates to pedestrian access would change the character of the street, impact safety, and the value of our homes. Today, El Mirador is a diverse neighborhood of all ethnic backgrounds. Any discussion should be conducted inclusively with all residents impacted. This does not happen in the current proposal. The city's mission statement is, "We are an inclusive, world-class city."
Sir,
As a minority,
your
I do
time
not
is
feel this
concluded.
process today has lived up to this standard. We can do better together on this. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Edwin Martinez, you're live with the Palm Springs. You're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments. And you can begin.
Okay.
Edwin,
Yes?
did you want to speak to the City Council?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to say basically that I've lived on Chia Road for the past 15 years and enjoyed the peace and quiet in the neighborhood. And it seems as if this whole issue on the gates between Chia Road and Chuckwalla, that issue is a completely political issue that didn't exist before. It seems like it's being done so to raise the profile of individuals on the board, and basically they don't live in the neighborhood, so they're not going to be affected by it. We chose this street because we enjoyed the actual neighborhood aspect of it and the limited traffic. The situation that's being proposed is not going to allow any additional access. You still have to go to Miraleste or Caballeros to get anywhere in town, and I think making a change like this is unfair and should not be done. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Diane? Diane Blasdell, you're live at the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments. I'm sorry, Diane Blasdell, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council persons, and city staff. City Attorney Hall. This is Diane Blaisdell. I'm a local attorney in Palm Springs, and I represent the El Mirador Neighborhood Organization. I'm appearing this evening on item 1B as my clients have been speaking in connection with 1B on the consent calendar for this evening. I did submit a letter which sets forth my comments and my clients' concerns in connection with the gates and the cul-de-sac issues of the El Mirador neighborhood. So I will not take your time to reiterate those points this evening, or those points that have been and will be raised by my numerous clients this evening. I do request, however, that the City Council take no action this evening on the issue raised in item 1B until the city has the opportunity to meet with me as well as my clients and the clients outside of the El Mirador Neighborhood Organization that will be impacted as well, in order to address those concerns that I have set forth in my position letter for the administrative record. I do respectfully request that no action be taken this evening, as there are significant legal issues that have been raised by the proposed action, which is set forth on the consent calendar this evening. I do not believe that the council, the city, my clients, nor I have had sufficient time to thoroughly consider and research the issues that are raised by the proposed action. As you have heard and will hear from my clients this evening, there are significant legal issues in connection with the creation of the Assessment District 159, the imposition of the assessments against my clients, the payment of those assessments, and the improvements associated therewith. I therefore respectfully request no action be taken this evening, and that a neighborhood meeting, town hall meeting, so to speak, be set forth and set with my clients and myself as soon as possible so that we can all fully discuss the issues raised this evening. I fully appreciate your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla Bernal, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Hello, my name is Carla. Hello, my name is Carla. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, my name is Carla Bernal. I'm a resident of Fiesta Road and an immigrant from Germany. As you are aware, there are great gated communities throughout Palm Springs without pedestrian access. Quite frankly, the city's proposal to permit pedestrian traffic on the 4 cul-de-sacs is ludicrous and serves no purpose. The only benefit it would provide to residents of Chacawala is that it would enable them to walk 1 block to Chia, then having to divert to either Mirales or Caballeros. Let me reiterate, 1 block, as Chia blocks any further straight advancements. Furthermore, currently the children in Chacawala enjoy the cul-de-sac as their playground. Even basketball nets are set up, and their parents enjoy the safety. By creating pedestrian access, it no longer provides parents with the oversight nor safety of their children. Right now, with COVID and any other priorities, I think that the city would have other means of not wasting money on pedestrian gates, which no one on either side of the gates has ever disputed. I would like the city to reconsider, as it makes absolutely no sense. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Philip Zamudio, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Madam Mayor, councilpersons, thank you for your time. I would like to oppose any type of action on consent item 1B. We're a diverse neighborhood of El Mirador. As a Latina resident of Palm Springs, I'm actually highly offended that our cul-de-sacs have been made an issue of race and racism within the city of Palm Springs. The cul-de-sacs were built legally and paid for by the residents in 1990 to address crime and safety, and they have been in place for 31 years without issue. Any modifications to the cul-de-sacs would be in breach of the agreement the city made with the residents. Altering the cul-de-sac gates with pedestrian access would change the character of the streets and the value of our homes. We are a diverse neighborhood today. Any discussion on this topic should be conducted inclusively with all residents impacted. This has not happened in the current proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Richard Cadanti, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Okay. Hello, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. I am strongly opposed to any changes or alterations to the gates at Chacawala in the El Mirador neighborhood. I have just recently purchased my home on Rodeo Road, and it has always been a dream of mine to live in Palm Springs. One of the main reasons for choosing my home here on Rodeo Road was the fact that it was on this beautiful, quiet cul-de-sac street with limited access. I knew this would make living here much safer and quieter. Safety was very important to me in making this decision. I would not have bought my home if this was not a closed cul-de-sac. I have also paid a premium for this kind of living, and my home is at the very end of the street next to the gates. Recently, I had an intruder come up to my windows of my home. It startled and upset me. I asked him to leave, and he exited the street by turning over a pot to climb over the gates. If there were any kind of openings of any kind, it would have given this kind of crime an easier access to our neighborhood. This is why the city approved the gates and the homeowners paid for the gates to be installed over 30 plus years ago. Given this kind of opening to the gates does not make sense. Our streets are not a shortcut to any park or any easy way out of the neighborhood. I don't understand the need to make this kind of a change to the gates at the cost of taxpayers when the city has so many other issues that are pressing at this time. No one has had a problem with these gates, and in fact, it has made both sides a better way of living for children and other activities. So I ask you please to take this off the agenda and leave the gates as they are and have been for over 30 years. And I thank you for the option to speak tonight.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Paul Sokoloff, you're live at the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Great, thank you. The city has so many other issues that are pressing at this time.
Okay, Paul, you have 2 minutes to go ahead and provide your comments.
Thank you, and good evening, City Council members. I'm concerned mostly that our City Council elected representative did not apparently work with our community to address his concerns and perception of the cul-de-sac gates in our El Mirador community. We've enjoyed our community since 2012, and we're surprised that anyone made the gates an issue that were primarily placed to protect our residents from vandalism. Without receiving notice, we found the gates as a topic on today's agenda. Are we mistaken in that elected city council officials notify residents about issues when they arise? Or are we supposed to investigate and find them on the agenda without receiving appropriate notification? And before they are a topic for any action, when did the residents have community input? We are at a loss. We found out that there was an issue through an op-ed on the Desert Sun and found out by social media. Why are actions seemingly being taken to deflect the issue in a self-serving interest? We are fortunate in that the gates were placed to limit an escape route for vandals. That's the primary reason. The cul-de-sacs limit the pedestrian access, but they don't prevent it. And vehicular traffic is also limited and has been very effective in minimizing vandalism. We are concerned that if any change to occur of the gates, a return with increasing vandalism will prevail. We do not support any changes to the cul-de-sacs, and safety is our primary concern. There are no sidewalks that allow for pedestrian traffic, pedestrian access, and we feel that this is an improper use of city funds to create an issue where there has been none. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Ragda Zachariah, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As you know, I don't even live in that complex, but when I saw $50,000 on the city agenda, I just decided to take a trip to the neighborhood, and all I saw is 8 beautifully cul-de-sac neighborhood, and I just don't understand why would you even put it on your agenda. Considering that we were in the red budget-wise, if you have an extra $50,000, we really have more important things to spend this on. And I always believe when you spend money, you need to see who's that going to benefit? What percentage of the community that's going to benefit? In this case, I came back and I read the summary, and to be honest with you, I didn't see any benefit to spend $50,000 except for a hidden agenda. Because when I read the summary, I saw the sentences that discrimination against lower income residents, which seems to be, this is a new agenda throughout Palm Springs. So I encourage you to bring the city together, stop, having underlying reasons why you want to do that. And I think this should never come to the agenda. I appreciate you seriously considering that there are more important things to spend money on. Can you imagine how many homeless people we can feed with $50,000, or create a shelter for them, or create a small career center for people who are unemployed? Thank you for listening to me, and have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you. Peter? Peter East, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. Mayor Helstage and City Council members, I'm speaking to you regarding item 1B. I represent the El Mirador Neighborhood Organization as Secretary to the Board. The organization has received criticism for not including residences adjacent to our present borders, especially those immediately to the north of us. For the record, I would like to provide some history as it informs the question of the gates. The neighborhood was originally established in 2001 as the Bel Desierto Homeowners Association. With the creation of the Office of Neighborhood Involvement in 2005, the association was converted to become a Palm Springs neighborhood organization and changed the name to El Mirador while retaining the original borders. We believe actually we were the first to be established and also the first to have blade signs. Recognizing that the 1PS guidance recommended inclusion of similar adjacent properties, EMNO has attempted on several occasions to gather the 20 signatures that were required by 1PS to establish, or in our case, expand, the inclusion area. However, signatures were hard to come by and those efforts were not successful. With the recent determination by 1PS to include every city resident in a neighborhood organization, accompanied by a change in the requirement of signatures, EMNO has taken steps with the help of 1PS to gather the names and addresses of residents in adjacent areas. So one of the first priorities for the new board that was just elected this month is to determine what boundary extension we feel we can manage and how to accomplish it. The board is committed to the expansion of the El Mirador neighborhood, both to the north and west. That will definitely include residents of Chuckwalla and Cottonwood Road. We look forward to welcoming our neighbors into the organization. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Bill Sanderson, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'm Bill Sanderson. My partner and I bought our house on a Punta in 2007, and the main reason was because it was a cul-de-sac. I want people to understand that some people have said that we live in this gated community. We are not. Those gates do not stop people from ringing my doorbell to sell me solar panels or their religion, or even it hasn't stopped Amazon porch people from stealing a 150-pound box off of my front door, which I have video of them rolling it out to their car. So the gates are only there to make a cul-de-sac, is why I feel that I purchased my home here. As far as the notification, I just like to ask the city council to check out why the notice that I was mailed to my home address was to a person that doesn't live here. I've lived here and paid taxes for 12 years. And I don't know why they couldn't get my name or my partner's name on the envelope, but it's not a person. It must have been the original person maybe that lived here when the gates were put in, but it wasn't to myself. And third, I think if the city council wants to correct past misgivings in inclusiveness, they should look to the historic CC&Rs that many properties hold, even private homes today. On our pre-closing to our home 12 years ago, we got a document from CC&Rs that stated that we could not resell our home to a particular racial group. And I'm not going to say that over this, but I have the document in my files. So if the city wants to help clean up past misgivings, I think that would be a good start to anybody buying property and getting those types of documents in their closing packet without a surprise. Because I know even in Las Palmas, I know there's another one that I won't even mention over the phone because it would be too disheartening. But there are some CC&Rs I think we could clean up as a city to better be more inclusive than changing and altering a neighborhood. And so I'd like to take a no vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. John Sigler, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Great. Good evening, all. My name is John Sigler. I recently purchased my home in El Mirador, Palm Springs. I bought it in 2019, and I specifically chose this home because of the quiet neighborhood and the quiet streets. There are many neighborhoods in Palm Springs that are lovely, but this was one that drew me in because it's quiet and peaceful, because of the gates. I propose that no alterations be made to those gates. Fewer pedestrians, fewer bicyclists make it more peaceful for me. I work in healthcare in Los Angeles, and I'm a first responder during the pandemic. And going to Palm Springs is my place of happiness, peace. It's just balance for me. and I just hope it's not disrupted by having those gates open. Thank you for allowing my voice to be heard. I'd rather put the money towards maybe the vaccinations that we heard at the beginning of the council meeting, helping the homeless, helping our, and if you ever want me on any of those committees, I have experience and knowledge about that, and would be happy to help. Thanks for hearing me, and please keep the gate closed.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. David Yoon, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Hi, thank you. My name is David Yoon, Mayor and council members. I just want to thank you, first of all, for letting me speak tonight. I actually only found out about this meeting only a few hours ago. I pulled into town from vacation, and one of the neighbors told me that the matter of the cul-de-sac being opened up was coming up to a council meeting. And I'm actually learning tonight, just from hearing all the other neighbors speak about this, that, first of all, I'm a minority myself, a minority immigrant, and I was really pleasantly surprised when I moved into the neighborhood that the neighborhood was so diverse, and this issue, even being a matter of some sort of racial equality, is definitely concerning to me, because I don't feel that it would help that case at all. And then also, like, the issue of vandalism, I didn't even know that we had a problem, and that's why the gates were put up 30 years ago. I only moved here a few months ago, and the main reason why I purchased a house on Fiesta was because I had several young kids, and living on a cul-de-sac is something that is it's invaluable for me, because it allows me to just have my kids roam the streets, and I don't have to worry about whether they're playing basketball in the cul-de-sac or other cars driving by. It's something that, if the cul-de-sac was not there, I 100% would have never purchased this house on this street. And another thing too is, I work in the real estate industry, and something that most people know is that if you live on a busy cut-through street or busy main roadway on a street in town, your house is worth a lot less than if you were to live on a more quiet street. And then the same thing is, if you live on a cul-de-sac, many people will pay a premium to live in an area like this, and that's one of the reasons why I did pay the premium to live on this street. So I think that it should be taken into consideration for all the residents that live in our neighborhood here, that if you're going to do something and bring up an issue like this, like, I'm actually open to listening and hearing what the positive impact of opening the gates are going to be. But from what I've heard so far, I definitely don't see anything that is, giving any validity to this issue here. So, I appreciate the time for you guys letting me speak here, and I hope you make the right decision moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Rick Mustasio. You're live.
Matasio.
You're live with the Palm Springs City Council.
It's a good Irish name.
You have 2 minutes to provide your comments, and you can begin now.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank the council and everybody for having me have this opportunity to address the council. My name is Rick Matasio. I'm a second-generation native of Palm Springs. My family moved to Palm Springs in 1922 and have been constant residents ever since. I currently own a home on Fiesta Road, and as such have been intimately involved with this project almost from day one. I would urge the council to read and put into the file the 2 letters written by my co-worker, Sally Sanjay, and her husband, John. They intimately tell you every concern that we had, because one thing that we saw really quick, or I did, was the fact that it was being played as an issue with racism, and that's not it at all. The one that we saw a lot of was crime, smash and grab type crime, and home values. The values would go home when these people would see this or read about it. So I would urge the council to take that into consideration. And again, thank you very much for having this opportunity. And please, everybody, be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Stephen Moses, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. I'll be very brief because you have pulled the item I wanted to talk about from the consent council to later, and I'm unable to get it on my computer, so I'm guessing. The Tova hotel, or apartments to be, which are to be torn down, or at least discussed to be torn down, I would hope you would consider the fact that they are virtually directly across the street from the Ivy Palm, which was in the process of being approved for subsidized housing for families. And I would think that maybe the half-built building that is Tova might be better converted to moderate income, low-income housing than it would be to be torn down. That was my thought, my hope. Consider it if you will, and thanks for all that you do.
Thank you, Stephen. We'll disconnect.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, that does conclude public comment, and I'd like to note that we did attempt to call Rosemarie Rizzo Tolk 5 times and Tamara Hill Burnett 5 times with no success. And I do want to let people know that I want to speak on non-agenda public comment, that it's taken later in the evening, so we will be contacting you at that time.
Thank you so much for everyone's comments, and thank you to the city clerk for diligently trying to reach every single person. The next item is city council and city manager comments and reports. Does the city council member have a report to give at this time? Mayor Pro Tem Middleton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to do a couple of things, one a little longer, and this one will be a bit shorter. I'm pleased to report today that the Cal Cities Board of Directors approved the unanimous recommendation of the Revenue and Taxation Policy Committee that will make the following change in policy for Cal Cities in its advocacy. And that it changes Cal City supports future aid being allocated to cities through a process that objectively accounts for the impacts that a disaster or an emergency has had on cities' residents, infrastructure, economy, and revenues. In the event that aid is provided solely on a per capita basis, Cal City supports that it be done equally per resident without regard to the size of the city. And that was approved by the board today. That's the last act from Cal Cities. As the federal funds, we hope, will ultimately come, all of our representatives will be advocating for equal access. Secondly, this will be just a bit longer. This past Monday, one of the events that we take pride in each and every year is the Human Rights Commission Awards program. And it is a part of our commitment as a city to be a fully inclusive city, one that is advocating constantly for all members of our community. Unfortunately, ASL was not provided during the awards ceremony, and we did not turn on what has recently become available through Zoom, and that is live transcription. That was embarrassing for all of us, and I wish to apologize on behalf of the city of Palm Springs to each and every member of our deaf community for the failure on our part to make ASL and captioning available at this critically important event. It is something that will not happen again. Dr. Reddy and his team have taken great steps over the course of this week to make sure that we have firmed up our policies and procedures on a moving forward basis to make sure this does not happen. We have had numerous meetings that have been sponsored and promoted by the city of Palm Springs over the course of the last 13 months since we, on January 30, 2020, adopted a resolution enacting language access policy for all of our residents. And again, I apologize. This is not what we want to do. It is not who we are.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton. We appreciate those comments, and I know they come from the whole City Council. If I can ask the City Clerk to just detail the process about how to request access under the ADA for our meetings. And then I know we have a language access policy that we're really proud of. So could you just detail that for the public? I completely support Mayor Pro Tem Middleton's apology that we didn't have the live caption on Zoom, which is a new feature, and we now will do going forward in all meetings, and we can commit to that. So could you explain just for us and the public what the process is to request access or to get access for any disability?
Absolutely. So, notwithstanding the fact that we will be turning on captioning for all of the Zoom public meetings going forward, we do have a language access policy, and of course, in compliance with the ADA Act, we will provide ASL interpreters as well as foreign language interpreters upon request. And residents can make these requests by contacting the City Clerk's office. They can email me at cityclerk@palmspringsca.gov. Again, that's cityclerk@palmspringsca.gov. Or they call our main office at 760-323-8204. Again, that's 760-323-8204. The email is monitored over the weekend and on holidays, so if there is a request for accommodations, we'll still receive that and move forward with getting those accommodations. And of course, if anybody in the community has questions about how we can provide assistance, they're always welcome to contact us.
Thank you, Anthony. Other updates from council members? Councilmember Garner.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to Councilmember Middleton for raising that on behalf of all of us. It is Black History Month, and usually we have a ton of wonderful events in our city, a parade that's been going on for, oh my goodness, over 30 years, and a lot of other fun things. Unfortunately, we can't do those this year, but there are still online events. If you go to the Black History Committee Facebook page, they're doing all sorts of things every day. I know that council members and I have all done little video recordings that we're going to be shown at some point. And there's also a caravan. It's a caravan through African American history in Palm Springs. It's on February 27th in the morning, 10 a.m. I think that's a Saturday. And it's going to talk all about the history in our city, specifically. So if you want to participate in that, you can get more information on the Black History Committee's Facebook page, or you can go to palmspringsblackhistory.org/caravan, and you can register there. So I hope that all of you are taking part in some virtual Black History events, and it's going to be a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments and reports? Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. During the State of the City address, one of the things that I had mentioned was that we would be working on a wayfinding program for downtown. The purpose of that program is to get cars off of the street and into parking and people out walking around, patronizing our businesses and whatnot, and making it much more of a pedestrian environment. I'm pleased to announce that we've come up with a draft of that. That draft will be worked through the AAC, the Architectural Advisory Committee, and we'll take it to Main Street for comments, and then we'll bring it back to City Council for review and approval. So we are moving forward on that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Wood. Councilmember Kors, do you have a report?
Sure, just a couple things. First, I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Middleton for her advocacy at Cal Cities, formerly League of California Cities, on equal funding. It really does show the importance of participating in those organizations, and now having Mayor Pro Tem Middleton in such a high-ranking position has really made a difference. And we really appreciate the extra work you do on these organizations and the benefits for the city. And I want to share that last week at the twice monthly California Mayors Coalition meeting, which Mayor Holstage and I were on, Speaker Anthony Rendon joined us, and this was the main subject of conversation with him as well. We have over 100 mayors and a couple former mayors who are now part of the coalition, and we had a really good conversation with him on how we advocate so that what happened with the last round of distribution of CARES Act funding doesn't happen moving forward. And the good news is in the new bill, we received tonight information that the bill that came out of the first committee in the House on funding related to COVID no longer has a provision that it's only for cities 50,000 and up, which would leave us a couple hundred people short probably, but it's for all cities regardless of size. And so continuing that advocacy, which I know many of us are doing with people we know, is really important because that's what will allow us to add more staff, to provide programs for our businesses and for our residents who are so badly impacted by COVID. So again, thank you for that. Only a couple things. There was a meeting of the convention, the Greater Palm Springs Convention and Visitors Bureau, and there's work being done for each of the cities who are members on individual sort of plans moving forward. And we'll get a presentation in the near future on ideas that they've had for us. They already presented ideas for the convention center. And I also wanted to share that when it comes to the number of seats, not how many people are flying in, but the number of seats that are still available coming to Palm Springs from December of 19 to February of 20, compared to December of 20 to this February, we're down about 14%. California is down over 50%. Nationally, it's over 50%. And that's the result of all the work that our Tourism Bureau and the CVB and our airport did together to bring in Southwest and other airlines to the city. So it'll put us in a really good position as we hopefully get to the end of the pandemic and the risks for travel to be able to welcome a lot of people back to Palm Springs. So I just really want to commend all the people who worked to bring in Southwest and JetBlue and other airlines. And with that, that's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. This is City Manager, Dr. Reddy. Do you have any report at this time?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to just note we have one slide, a picture of the signage at Lawrence Crosley. Councilmember Gardner asked us to give an update. We are doing that conversion. And Marcus, could you explain the process, the other blade signs that are ordered that illuminate, and explain when this will be complete in the process? Thank you.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, the street name signs that hang at the signalized intersections at Ramon Road and down at East Palm Canyon, those have been ordered. Those take several weeks for fabrication, and so those should be arriving in a couple of weeks, and those will be installed with the dual names. As well, as you might recall, in renaming the street, we committed to having dual names for 5 years to avoid any confusion as the public learns and of the name change over time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Marcus. And then also, Mayor, I would just like to finalize, ask Jay Verada, our Community and Economic Development Director, to step up to the podium. You had asked for an update on the Lift to Rise contract, which allows us to have some housing. And actually, Jay, you do have an update because they just approved the contract, I believe, today?
That's correct.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, the Lift to Rise board has approved the agreement with the city, and so we are moving forward with them. The agreement actually utilizes a portion of the funds from the city's administrative dollars, so we could better maximize the amount that the council approved back in December. So we are using more of the program dollars to meet program and cutting into the city's admin dollars to meet the management fee for Lift to Rise. They have indicated they will be prioritizing working on Palm Springs applications. They have about 200 of them, and they are very intent on whittling them down. In addition to that, the county has recently approved accepting $57 million from the federal government. So these dollars can also be used in the city of Palm Springs. So even though we may go through the Palm Springs resources, Lift to Rise will be in a position, Lift to Rise will be administering the funds for the county, will be in a position to supplement what Palm Springs has provided in terms of rental assistance for Palm Springs residents. So just wanted to give you that update.
Thank you, and I would note that since their executive board did approve